Hello, and welcome to AI Curious. My name is Jeff Wilser. I'm a journalist, I'm a human, and I'm curious about AI. Most companies dabbling with AI agents are running one, maybe two, little pilot, a toe in the water, some agentic dabbling. KPMG is running an entire fleet of them across a workforce of 276,000 people in 138 countries. Which raises a slightly terrifying question. Once you've got an army of AI agents loose inside your company, who makes sure they don't go rogue? That's my guest job. Samantha Gloede, she goes by Sam, is KPMG's global head of risk services and its global trusted AI leader, which is a polite way of saying she's the person responsible for keeping all these agents in line. And because KPMG turns around and advises thousands of other companies doing the exact same thing, she has a vantage point almost nobody else has. Not one deployment, but the whole agents enterprise landscape at once, essentially. And the landscape is a little wild. Nearly half the companies KPMG surveyed have already hit the brakes on an AI project because the cost blew past the value. Everybody's flooring it. Most can't even see the fuel gauge. We get into all of that complex reality. What a governed agent fleet actually looks like on a Tuesday. Who's on the hook when an agent makes a bad call? The human, the vendor, or the machine? Whether any of this is making money yet, and she's refreshingly honest on that one. And my favorite question, whether companies are using AI to grow or just to cut. Sam also shares that she runs her whole life through a personal AI assistant. She named it Alice. And as longtime listeners might know, I have my own assistants for this podcast, AI Curious George. And we do think that Alice and George should get together. It'll be a fun AI agent meet cute. I'll let her explain. This is a great conversation. I think we get into the realities of where agentic enterprise use is right now. Sam has truly a front row seat to all of that. So with that, please enjoy my conversation with Sam Gloede, KPMG's global head of risk services and global trusted AI leader. Sam, welcome to AI Curious.
Hey, Jeff, I'm so happy to be here today.
So for those who are not following closely, give us a sense of KPMG's role in the AI space and AI world. Give us a sense of the scope and sprawl of what you guys are doing.
Yeah, I think it is all encompassing for us, really. I have a couple of roles which are really synergistic. I'm the head of our risk consulting practice globally, but I also lead trusted AI for KPMG. And so as part of what we're doing for Client Zero, I think it's given us a complete, deep insight into what the experience is of going through such a significant enterprise-wide transformation with AI. And so it's allowing us to speak to our clients with absolute empathy and direct experience as to what that experience is and what the friction points are and what the challenges have been and how to, lead through this time of disruption as effectively as possible. And I think the pace of disruption is so significant compared to any other type of digital disruption and transformation opportunity that we've had in the past. And so with, at KPMG, we have an advisory practice. That's where I sit, but also audit and tax. And AI is touching every part of our clients' organizations. And so we are absolutely innovating our own service portfolio to make sure that we are ready, whether it is in our advisory business, in audit or tax, to meet our clients where they are, use the best technology ourselves in how we serve them, but also help them have a very intentional and, strategic focus on their own AI transformation to make sure that they can do it at the right pace, get the best value out of it to solve the problems that they need, and differentiate themselves in their own market. And I think it's a very exciting time. There's lots to do, lots to learn every day. But I think anyone who's leaning in is going to have a really good time doing it.
Yeah, I love it. I really want to focus on one thing you mentioned there of helping the clients with their own kind of AI and AI agent transformation. And you wrote a really interesting vantage point in seeing how hundreds or thousands of companies are actually managing this. And you govern what I believe your company material is called governing an agent's fleets. So tell me about that agent fleet. What does that look like? Because everyone, obviously, agent, we're all hearing agents. It's the word of the year. I've talked about agents a ton on this podcast. But from your viewpoint, what is an agent's fleet? What does it do?
Yeah. So agent is the topic. Everybody is talking about it now. And I would say what we are absolutely seeing now versus, say, 6 months ago or last year is that agentic AI has definitely moved past that pilot stage and experimentation stage in many, many organizations. Yep. And it's moving to a point now where you've got, as you said, a fleet of agents that are quite sophisticated that are now not just in pilot mode or operating in a single function, but really operating across different workflows, different functions, different systems, different teams. And it's happening very, very rapidly. And what I would say is any organization that has not been very proactive in how they are going to govern and monitor and operate their agentic fleet is going to be, I think, challenged to make sure that they get the best value out of them. But I think from my own biased vantage point, caring so much about risk and trust, if you don't set them up so that they have the right guardrails and controls in by design, it's going to be very, very hard to keep them in alignment, to stop them going rogue, to stop them doing anything that they shouldn't do. And so I feel excited at the opportunity that comes from this. And I also feel pretty optimistic, honestly, about the tooling that is available to help manage that fleet of agents, to help you embed the right governance and guardrails in it, but also to be able to have that sort of always-on oversight and monitoring of them. So I think there's this fear with a lot of people, but I really believe if you've got the right tooling and the right guardrails, it can be okay.
I'd love to get a little more concrete of what some of these agents actually look like, because I think everyone defines agents differently. Some people imagine it being almost like, Jarvis from the MCU-esque intelligence. It's kind of like monitoring everything. And on the other end of the spectrum, it's like, it's one simple task that runs at 4 a.m. for 3 minutes and then it's done, right? And
like an assistant.
Exactly. Can you give me a concrete example or two of what some of these agents are like? What's their scope? What's their remit? What are they actually doing?
Yeah. So we at KPMG, we reference different types of agents in what we call this TACO framework. So taskers, automators, collaborators, and orchestrators. And I think those taskers and automators are the very simple, the ones that everyone's more comfortable to use, probably more in like the low code space. Whereas when you get to collaborators and orchestrators, that's where the agentic capability becomes much more sophisticated. They may be operating much more autonomously together, making, higher risk decisions, accessing different systems, different teams, different workflows. And so I think it's very important to differentiate between those sort of more sophisticated agentic capabilities that are likely more in sort of the pro code space than the more simple ones. And I think that's an important differentiation because you don't want to apply the same governance and control over the less sophisticated agents that are doing low risk tasks. And so I think it is important to understand the different types of agents and the capabilities that they have and really focus how you develop them, deploy them, and control them appropriately based on that risk.
Awesome. I'm going to share one concrete example of one of my agents, and I'd love to hear an example or two of like in whether KPMG internally, and as I understand it, you have agents that are orchestrated across like over 200,000 employees, if I'm right, and then what you've seen from your clients. So like an example of kind of what I'm referring to, and listeners might have heard this already. For my podcast, AI Curious, I have an agent named George for Curious George. And every night, George is scouring the landscape of AI news, doing analysis, also getting up to speed on my editorial calendar, episodes we've had, ones coming up, what's scheduled, looking for blind spots, and saying, this news thing happened that's interesting. That could be a good idea for an episode. in 2 months, or maybe we say, oh, it's so important, we should bump it to next week, and makes recommendations on the actual schedule of the show, writes it to a Google Sheets. There are other actual humans, workers on the podcast who can kind of see what George did, react to that. So the human's in a loop. And then George writes a memo for me every morning. So when I get to have my coffee, I see a curated list and dossier of AI news as customized to me for the podcast. That's kind of an agent. When I think of agent, I think of George. Would love to hear an example for you of like, what are some agents doing at KPMG or for other clients?
For our clients. First of all, George sounds great. I'd love to meet him. I'd like to have a cousin of George to help me do some of that stuff too. So I have a similar agent to George who I haven't named, but I've realized I should probably do that so that we become closer.
I think it's ridiculous. There's obviously no business purpose for this, but it helps me keep it straight in my head.
But it also is like a part of the team. And I think people also need to change their mindset with how they interact with agents now, because they are digital teammates. I have similar capabilities to that, we work largely in the Microsoft ecosystem, but we do have an ecosystem of many other AI tools. So I want to be clear about that, a lot of what I use every day is in Microsoft, but we use other things. But what we are looking at for ourselves as we transform our business, and what we're also seeing with our clients, which is so timely that we can really be living that experience at the same time, is how do we look at actual value chains across our enterprise that are not just limited to finance or HR or risk or the front office, but how do we transform that workflow with agents operating together with humans in the loop at different points in time, and how are they actually changing how work gets done across all of those sort of phases of the enterprise? So some examples could be employee onboarding, for example, and you could have employee agents that help with like the recruiting process, and then through interview process to onboarding them, to then liaising with technology to procure system access and hardware, then into finance, where there might be engagements with payroll, for example, right through to performance management and the leaders that people work with. So I think that's an example of agent capability that is serving kind of an end-to-end value stream, but touches people, touches different departments, touches technology. And I think that as an example is why you have to have a very intentional design of agentic capabilities that's going to consider what is the high value problem you're trying to solve. How is agentic capability going to solve that and drive the value that it needs? But in that process, what systems does it need to touch? Does it have the right identity access management? Do you have the right alignment guardrails so that it knows its responsibilities versus the other agents it interacts with? Do you have the right logging of that? And so I think that we're seeing now for ourselves and our clients, absolutely the leading organizations are building agentic capabilities that go like that across value streams. But organizations that aren't ready to do that in an intentional way, with a change to the workforce model, a change to the operating model, and the right security and risk guardrails built in, are going to really struggle, I think, to get the value in a trusted way.
One thing I'm really curious about is context, and how you guys are thinking about context and infrastructure. And this sounds really boring, maybe to folks who have not yet done this, but even like file management, right? I think like I found even in my own experimentation, and when I work with companies, the small companies and mid-sized companies about this, often the make or break is not how powerful the model is, but the actual like boring file management systems you use for context, right? Because like people who are not that dialed into this, they might just imagine, oh, the powerful AI just knows everything, but not really. Like whenever a quote unquote agent like wakes up or you start a new task, it really knows nothing from scratch. It has to basically read like text files or markdown files or whatever to get up to speed. Oh, okay. This is the larger environment is company XYZ, and I am in the marketing departments, and the current objective of the marketing department is the launch of this product, and then getting more context, right?
Yeah.
And only after this context, then it goes, does stuff, and writes more memory files, and then it hands those files off to the next agent, and so on, right? And it sounds so tedious, but it's really, what I found is it's the kind of orchestration of all of these tedious files and how it's built and how like it sits across servers. And oh no, what if this server's not able to access the same shared files as that server? Then we have agents stranded. Like, a lot of make or break comes down to that plumbing as opposed to like the sexy model stuff.
Yes.
How are you seeing that dynamic?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely important. It's why I really think that there needs to be this multi-dimensional approach to how the transformation is designed. So when I sit in my consulting role, I lead our risk consulting business for KPMG, but I work absolutely side by side with my counterparts that lead our technology consulting business, that lead our people and change or human capital management workforce, a business, who lead the finance, CFO office type business. And I think what's really important in doing that is that when we are helping our clients with whatever their transformation need is, we are coming to that with deep industry expertise. So we understand the sector that they work in. We understand the deep functional expertise, whether it is finance, HR, risk, legal, technology, and we can bring all of that together and define, as you said, kind of the right context of what is the data sort of corpus that needs to be made available as this agentic workflow is being defined. And I can't emphasize enough how important this is to not be solely a technology-led transformation or a business-led transformation. You need to have all of those capabilities coming together. And I think we're very fortunate at KPMG because we have got such a broad range of capabilities and deep domain expertise that we deliver to our clients. But now more than ever, the opportunity for us as a consulting leadership team, an advisory leadership team, and our sector teams to come together and bring all of the pieces of what we do into a holistic offering to help our clients define that right context, make sure that they've got the data corpus correctly built in at the foundation, the right risk and security guardrails built in, and then leveraging the best technology strategy to implement that, regardless of what it is. There's many partners that we work with. I think that's going to help to drive a lot of value, but the context and the data is critically important. I also think for a lot of organizations that can be a big challenge if they're not data ready. I think that can be a problem.
Yeah, as you mentioned, you work with so many clients. I know KPMG, my guess is thousands, and you're deploying AI there. Where have you seen the most success? What use cases? What vectors, if you will? Where are we seeing concrete? Because we've all seen kind of some reports out there that, like, I'm paraphrasing, that companies are struggling to make AI agents work at scale. The desire is there, but when the rubber hits the road, they're struggling. And by many counts, many are failing. Where are you seeing concrete wins? And then also, you don't have to name names. Where is it challenging? Where are you saying, we thought this would work pretty cleanly, but it turned out to be a lot more of a struggle than we thought?
Yeah. So I'm first going to ground it in some data that we have. We do this quarterly AI Pulse survey at KPMG, and what we saw in our Q1 for Q1 data was the investment is absolutely there. So we're seeing on average $186 million investment per year in AI. The commitment is there. The excitement is there.
Sorry, what was it? To clarify, that investment, what's the context of that? Per the $186 million for
on average for the enterprises that we
on average for enterprise.
surveyed.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. And I can provide like the specific context of that, but it was like about 2,000, significant organizations that we surveyed. So I'll share that and you can take a look at that. But so we're seeing on average $186 million investment per year. So that's significant.
Yep.
But what we're also seeing is while there is this investment and excitement, there is definitely an ability to see value, but they're not yet seeing significant ROI.
Yep.
Which I think is fine because it's early days in agentic deployment. But then what we saw was 75% of respondents had significant concerns around risk and security. In our Q2 data, an additional insight that became very, very clear from that is where we're seeing the organizations that are making that investment, but actually are starting to see value, ROI, and the abilities to successfully scale it across the enterprise. What was consistent there is that the ownership of the AI strategy and the imperative for that and the investment was at the CEO level, whether it was exactly the CEO or him or her directing a group underneath, but with that absolute most senior level commitment to this, and therefore the investment being made through all of the different functions across the enterprise, that was leading to far more value. And so what we are seeing with our clients across different sectors, every sector, you are seeing certain organizations that we call leaders and some that are laggards. And the ones that are leading are those that have been very intentional, very cross-functional in their approach, and collectively looking at the value opportunity with the required governance and work model and operating model change, and doing it as an intentional strategy to drive that outcome. Where we are seeing those that are lagging, it's where it doesn't have the right attention from leadership to allow the disruption to what could be considered roadblocks in achieving that enterprise scale. And the ones that are lagging are either investing and they're not doing it well and they're not getting the value, or they're just haphazard in that. And I think that they can't get ahead of their own existing processes that need to change to allow this to scale across the enterprise.
I love that framing of leaders and laggards, and I totally agree from what I've seen as well that it really needs to be championed from the top. And so I'm not surprised by those results, and it's really great clarity. I'm curious though, what kind of, just to give us some examples of concretely where are agents working in terms of, is it customer service? Is it mostly coding? You gave an example earlier about helping onboarding a new hire, for example. But can you give some, over to hundreds of thousands of clients, what cluster are you seeing consistently? Okay, this use case, there's real meat on the bones. We're seeing this again and again. Clients are winning with this.
Yes. I would say definitely the earliest stage adoption was definitely in technology and development and engineering. I think everyone's clear on that. And that the capability there continues to increase rapidly. And I think that that's hugely important. And certainly that will allow the organizations to change everything else that they need. I think I want to think more across like the value chains, because I think that, we can definitely see agentic capability helping in the front office with customer experience. But to do that, it needs to link to many things, perhaps in the back office, that allow that sort of seamless and frictionless experience for customers. And so I think in the less regulated sectors, you're seeing probably that quicker uplift with the implementation of agentic capabilities that are going to help the customer because they haven't had the same regulatory hurdles to overcome. I think in more heavily regulated sectors like, financial services, for example, or healthcare, frankly, the tolerance for error, whether it is in a financial liquidity market sort of space or in healthcare and diagnostics and treatments, etc., I think the tolerance for any form of error or inaccuracy is much lower there.
Sure.
And the regulations, I don't think have kept pace with the technology development. And so what we're seeing for those higher regulated sectors is we are working really closely with them to help them identify the use cases that are going to drive the greatest value for their type of business, but do it in a way that we have deep domain expertise of the processes that they want to change with agents and implement agentic capability. But we also understand their regulatory framework requirements that don't currently specifically address AI, but we can help them implement agents with the right transparency and the right compliance artifacts to help them still be regulatory compliant with the right security guardrails, but also driving the operational efficiencies and the value that's going to come from that. So I think it differs by sector.
Yeah.
But I think I can't emphasize enough how important it is that like one person's experience with an agent is, I think, very rarely limited to that one piece that they touch. It's going to have this flow and effect through that entire value chain from front to back.
Sure. I have almost a philosophical question on what you're seeing from clients and how they're approaching AI. Because it's kind of getting out of the agentic weeds a little bit. My keynote on AI, my workshops is called AI to Empower, Not Eliminate. And the thesis there is the idea that you almost have two choices. You can use AI just to like cut, or use AI to actually augment and grow. And I'm hoping companies are choosing the path that's actually focused more on growth than just like, cool, we're now going to cut 30% of our workforce. And you, though, have access to the receipts. You're seeing companies and seeing what they're choosing to do. What's your sense of, from the enterprise you're working with, to what extent they are trying to use AI to just cut employees and do the same amount of work, but by spending less? Or say, great, we have this team, and now instead of doubling headcount, we can keep our team the same size and use AI to grow and do a lot more. What's the temperature read you're getting on that?
So I am completely aligned to your thesis there. And I think that's where we're going to see the greatest value as a society from AI, where it is augmenting human capabilities and allowing humans to, spend their time doing the things that matter more and enter into a space that they have not had the capacity to do before. I really believe in that. But I think we are seeing some organizations that are really short-term focused that are seeing this as, yes, I can cut a lot of costs. And you absolutely can. Like I think about even in the last 12 months of what I use AI to do for me every day. I used to have team members that worked for me that did a lot of that. What I have seen, though, is that now those team members are doing far more strategic initiatives for me, and that has allowed me to have the leverage to do much more strategic activity in my own role. And I think as a team, we've expanded, we have progressed into areas that we wouldn't have been able to before. So I think that's an example where we're using it to augment that. But I think organizations who are solely thinking about this as a profitability and a productivity measure may see that value in the short term, but I believe they could have an existential threat against their business if they're not thinking more along that value and growth opportunity, because everybody's going to achieve the productivity gain. If they're not proactively thinking about the value and growth and the new markets that they can enter, the new products that they can deliver, really push themselves to think, what else could we do? It's kind of like what Kodak film to digital film or
Totally.
like print. It's like that transformational moment. And if organizations are not being really intentional about what is the art of the possible of our business and what we can become with AI, then I think that they're missing a trick. But it's difficult. It's complicated.
It is. And along those lines, let's kind of shift to like the human side of this. You mentioned how you're using AI a lot yourself, which lets you do more. One theme I've noticed myself personally, I see a lot from the companies I work with, is that people, a couple of years ago, the thought was, oh, thanks to AI, we can work less. AI will do our work and we'll leave the office at 2:00 and go for a walk in the woods or go to the beach, whatever. And the irony is AI forces us to do more work. And personally, the paradox is, Sam, it often feels really fun, right? It's like, oh, I can do this. Oh wow, this agentic thing, cool. It's almost like a video game. Like I found a new level I unlocked. And, oh, I can get this new bad boss, right? And so I found myself grabbing Claude on Saturday at 10 in the morning and building some new dashboard, right? And that's like a fun way to spend a Saturday morning, right? And so how much have you seen, how have you experienced that with you and your team, even clients of like, how is AI changing work from the actual, like, is it changing the way people used to, and obviously it's been a long time. So we lived a 9-to-5 lifestyle, right? Mobile phones and remote work. That's right. That was a while ago, but still, it seems like there has been a shift in the past year for the true AI forward folks. Work has changed. What's been your experience along those lines?
Yeah, I think it has changed, and I can see, with my clients within KPMG, with my social network as well, the people who are embracing it and who are curious and who are testing things out and thinking about how can I do whatever task I want to do today? How can I use AI to do it? I see those people that are learning so much. They've got this new sense of sort of energy in their day, and it's a pretty exciting time. But then there is definitely a demographic of people who are afraid of it or philosophically disagree and are really just never going to be positive. They think this is a bad thing for humankind. And there's degrees in between all of that, right? When I think about my role as the trusted AI leader, I care so much about it, certainly for my job, but also I'm a mother of a 9-year-old boy. I care a lot about humanity. I want to play a part in making sure that AI does good for the world. And so a part of that is I want to make sure that humans feel that they can trust AI to do good for them, for their family, for their, their community. And so I think we have to build the technology so that its outcomes can be trusted. But I think we need to enable, if I think about the workforce, we need to enable them with the best tools that are at parity with the tools they use in their personal life, so that they use the tools available at work and not sort of do shadow AI, and that they use them in a way that they feel that they don't have to hide it. There's trust in the workforce. I'm encouraged to innovate. I'm encouraged to try these things. I'm encouraged to get the value out of it. And I'm not going to be seen as like cheating if I use that.
Yeah.
And that may not seem that significant, but not every organization has that same sort of approach to AI. And what we've seen definitely in a shift in, surveys that we've done is that, 12 to 18 months to 2 years ago, people knew they needed to use AI, but they didn't have access to the best tools. So they were using it and hiding it. And they were worried if they got caught, they were using it, that they would get in trouble because you shouldn't be cheating. Now we're seeing a big shift in that where, workers feel that they can trust the outcomes of AI, but also that their organization and their leadership is going to trust that they're using the tools to do their job better and effectively, and then they're not cutting corners. So I just think that trust needs to be really pervasive across the technology controls, but also kind of the ethos of an organization, and that they're empowering their workforce to use the best tools, get the best outcomes, and that they're using professional judgment at the same time.
Last few questions for you as we wind down. What advice do you have for leaders who need to spur AI adoption in their own company, and maybe they can't afford KPMG, right? So what would you? What are some common sense things that any level executive could do to foster the right kind of AI deployment?
Yeah, we have clients of so many different sizes, right? And I also, I mentioned I have a son, and I work with his school in New York City, to help guide them on their AI strategy as well. And I think what's very important is that there's, this holistic approach, that you're not just looking at it from a technology lens, but you're really looking at governance and value together. You're looking at what are the value outcomes that we want AI to solve for us. So it's not just technology for technology's sake, and that you are considering the governance in the design of that so that you can innovate at speed and achieve that value really, really quickly. I think it's very important with agentic AI. You need to have that visibility. You need to know what the AI is doing, where it is, what system it's accessing, who owns it. So you need to have that inventory up front, because if you don't have it up front, you're never going to be able to catch up. I think you need to have the right human oversight defined, so that people understand their responsibilities of oversight when they are working with agentic capabilities or with generative AI capabilities as well. I think having a very intentional risk-based approach to this, so that you are not slowing down the innovation by over reviewing and over litigating, if it's a low risk area. And then I think very importantly, there has to be equal investment in the workforce model and change management, because it's not just going to be implementing this technology and making sure it works okay. It actually changes how work gets done. It changes how people need to be trained, and the literacy that comes with that. And I think if you consider all of those things intentionally up front, it's going to drive value at the outcome at the end. And I think that approach can be a fit for purpose for any size organization. Just the scale of investment is going to be different.
Totally agree with all of that. Final question for you, Sam. Tell us more about how you are using AI. You mentioned you use it a lot more. Give us a sense, maybe both in the workflows of KPMG and also in your own life, or just for personal life, or for funsies.
Yeah. Okay. So one area at work that I feel super excited about, that, where I and my team have designed and implemented is, we have so much amazing innovation at KPMG in how we operate our own business, how we deliver for our clients. And so we want to keep pace. We want to give our teams access to frontier models and frontier capabilities, but we absolutely need to do that in a very trusted environment. So we have very rigorous process around from the entire AI life cycle, from ideation through to deployment. We have very robust trusted AI framework and controls and guardrails that are built in. But we recognized early on we can't keep pace with the volume of technology that needs to be reviewed and what needs to be built. If we can't also automate the way that we do that. So we have implemented sort of AI and agentic AI to help us with our trusted AI review process, which has been incredibly helpful to help us keep pace and make sure that we're not slowing down that innovation. So I think that's a really exciting use case at work. In my personal life, I have, I'm a working mum. I have a pretty big job. I travel. I'm very engaged in my son's life at school, in his personal life. I love looking after my family and my household. It is allowing me to, as much as possible, be really present with all of those things and do it all, because I have my own assistants that now I have in my personal life that are helping me keep on top of everything. And so I have different tools that I use for different things, but I think for me as a working mum, it has been such a game
Can
changer,
you
and I feel slightly more in control.
Can you give one kind of tiny example of what one of these assistant tools is? How is it helping you specifically? Give us an example.
Yes. So I historically, if you had seen my personal devices, it was embarrassing how little attention I paid to any like personal communications, personal admin, and I would have these days where I would burst through it all. Yep. I have built my own kind of personal dashboard where I use Claude in my personal life. I really love Claude. Where I have created sort of agentic capability to help me manage all of that, as well as how I'm supporting with the school, and I'm on an advisory board at the school, and just helping me stay on top of my personal admin, alerting me to things in advance, helping me prepare as I would in my own job. If I've got things coming up, if my son has things coming up, that I have kind of almost this dashboard of reminders of like, this is what's coming next week.
Yep.
And it was fun to build that out for myself. So I used one of those days where I would have been doing that heavy admin load of like actioning things to actually just sit down and try to integrate everything. It's not perfect. It's getting better as it learns me. But it's helped.
I love it. So you needed your one last thing, Sam. You got to name this. You have your version of George, right?
What would I call it?
Well, the one I'm building is, or I have a kind of it's been a prototype for a while. They're beta. You know, it works, but there's some rough edges to work out. But I'm a huge nerd, and this is modeled after Downton Abbey. And so the head butler of Downton Abbey is Mr. Carson, right? Mr. Carson in charge of the driver and the cook and so on. And so my theory is I have Mr. Carson as my head agent, who is in charge of, George and a few other ones as well, different things in my personal and business life. So
I think I'm going to call mine Alice then. Remember that lovely housekeeper on the Brady Bunch? I love her.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, great. Done.
So I'm going to call mine Alice.
Love it. Oh, that's great. Love it. Breaking news, folks. So here we Alice has been born.
And watch out, mums of New York City. I might make this into a product.
Amazing. Sam, this is so much fun. Thanks so much for sharing all of this.
So good to meet you.
Best of luck to you and KPMG going forward. Really enjoy it. Thanks again.
Thank you. So nice to meet you. Thanks, Jeff.
Well, there you have it. Thanks again to Sam Gloede, KPMG's Global Head of Risk Services and Global Trusted AI Leader. And thank you to you, dear listener. Thank you also, as always, to our show's producer, Jasper Chua, and to Garrett Lang for our show's theme music. Thanks again, and see you next time.